There was a time when I would have cursed that carriage driver about the snow slush from the wheels of his conveyance. But that was before my dream. It's odd. I think of the small Russian village in which I live as such a different domain now. Its dim and blunted atmosphere seems to serve a purpose. Perhaps it always did. And it was my blunted consciousness that caused me to look down on my nose at it and its inhabitants. There is life all around me. It pains me that no one here knows the truth.
What do I have to do to get you to fill my glass with vodka, Mikhail?
Simple, you rube. Put another kopeck down the bar.
Life is a transaction, and we poor souls are merely a commodity.
I beg to differ.
Do you have proof to the contrary, comrade?
I've seen the truth.
Tell me what it looks like, and I'll buy you a drink.
You can save yourself the price of a drink. I'll tell you what I know, as best as can be explained.
Gather round, you gentle peasants, and hear the words of a prophet.
I'm not a prophet. I'm simply a ridiculous man.
A ridiculous man? You're a humble one, aren't you?
I'm called a madman now.
Well, that's of higher rank than ridiculous.
They call me mad, but I remain just as ridiculous to them as before they dubbed me mad.
Show me who they are, and they'll meet with my fist.
No, my friend. I'm no longer angry with them, even when they laugh at me. In fact, I'd be inclined to laugh with them, not at myself, but for my love for them. I try to explain it all to them, and they don't understand.
They have ears, but they do not hear.
Very apropos.
So, who do we have here? The village idiot?
Strange way for a bartender to treat a commodity.
I concede that I'm ridiculous, but I'm not an idiot. In fact, I studied at the university in Petersburg.
An educated man.
But to no avail. The more I studied, the more I learned, the more ridiculous I became. Each revelation from my learning simply confirmed just how ridiculous I was.
An educated idiot.
He's not an idiot. It's merely an educated, ridiculous man.
Not exactly something to be proud of.
And yet I confessed to everyone, with great pride, that I was ridiculous. My pride grew. But as time went on, I cared for nothing. I believed in nothing.
You read too many political pamphlets. You sound like a nihilist.
I have no political convictions. Perhaps if I did, I would have taken a braver path and blown off my head with my revolver that night, as I had planned. Somehow, without knowing, there grew in my soul a conviction that it would make no difference to me if the world existed or not. When violence occurred in my presence, it was of no significance. When I learned of some grave injustice, I couldn't even pretend to care anymore. But in November 3rd to be precise, something changed me. It was a dark, gloomy evening. The cold rain had the character of some menacing creature creeping up behind me. The little orange flicker from a nearby gaslight stained the corner of my eye. I looked up to the ink-black sky. There were clouds shredded at the bottom that leaked dark, poisonous patches. I noticed in one of these spots a small pinpoint of light. It was a distant star. Gazing at this little star seemed to give me a plan. That night, I would kill myself. I had already resolved to take my life 2 months earlier. I purchased a revolver, loaded it with ammunition, and placed it in the drawer of a small table by my easy chair. My state of mind was so the very act of taking my life seemed pointless. But I knew there would come a moment when there would be a sign. That night, the sign came to me clearly. Why my path was made sure by that particular star, I don't know. I was looking up at the sky when there was an unexpected intrusion. A young girl had grabbed me by the elbow and stopped my gait. She wasn't crying, but desperate. I couldn't make out what she was saying, but I did hear one word repeatedly.
Mama, Mama!
I turned my head away and continued home to conclude the act that was my destiny. I couldn't let myself become distracted. Finally, a passerby on the opposite side of the street caught her attention, and she went to deliver her fruitless lamentations to him. I continued my fated quest. I climbed the steps to my furnished apartment. I had to shake the memory of the young girl from my mind to make my final act one of integrity. I entered my apartment and could only manage to make it to the easy chair by the small table. There was a candle already lit on its surface. It must have been placed there by the landlady. Is this it? So be it. I sat there with resolve, but that resolve was nailed to my experience with the young girl. I had no doubt that her mother was ill or hurt, and that she was desperate to help her. I had already resolved to take my life, but I couldn't shake the realization that I pitied the girl. I was still a man. I wasn't a non-entity. But what could I do with this knowledge? Had I left my destination earlier, our paths wouldn't have crossed. I wouldn't feel the pity for her anguish, nor the shame of leaving her behind. But I could make all that go away. With one act, it would no longer exist. If I simply pulled the trigger, the world would cease to exist. For me, at least. But what's the difference? My brain screamed with wonder. If I was on another planet and performed the despicable act I was contemplating, could I return to Earth exonerated? Standing on this planet, looking at the stars, would it make any difference at all? I became furious with the gnawing realization that I wouldn't be able to end it without a resolution to all of the thoughts that were invading my mind. Somewhere between my thoughts and my delirium, I had fallen into a sleep. And in that sleep, on the 3rd of November, I dreamt. It must have been a dream. I dare not say what else it could have been. It must have been in the dream that the candle on the table now glowed a blue smudge. I apathetically opened the drawer and took out the gun. I pointed it at my heart. It seemed that something other than my will was directing my actions. I say this because my careful plan was to shoot myself in the head, allowing the bullet to enter my right temple, entering the brain and removing all consciousness. But here it was, pointed at my heart. I hesitated because this was not according to plan. Then the blue blot that barely served as illumination undulated, pregnant with some force of the supernatural. It started moving and heaving. I panicked and hastily fired. In dreams, one can fall to the ground or be victim of a shooting or stabbing, and there is no pain, save in the consciousness of the sleeper. So it was with me. I fired the shot but felt no physical pain. My entire being shook, after which there was a blanket of pure black. I sensed that I was lying on my back. The surface on which I was stretched was forbiddingly hard. I heard the lid of my coffin close above me. The vacuum that followed was immeasurable. I was quite dead. But as in a dream, I accepted the fact and didn't question its implausibility. I don't know exactly how long I laid there in the utter void. Perhaps a minute, or it could have been a millennium. Then a drop of water fell on my left eye. It must have been created in the soil, seeped through the coffin, and indifferently found a place to take its rest. Then another drop splashed in the same location. I was feeling physical pain with each drop. I sensed someone was passing over me. I cried out, not with my voice, because I had ceased to exist, but with my whole being. Whoever you are, listen to me. If there is something more to come, bring it to me now. If what's to come is vengeance on my wretched soul for the ugly path I took to live my life and the vile way in which I so arrogantly took it, bring it to me now. No matter the torment, I'll accept the misery of your revenge. It will never equal the contempt that I feel being left here in oblivion. After I cried out, I fell silent. A moment passed. Another drop fell onto my eye, but this time I knew that there was some kind of change. I felt no movement, but I knew that I was being taken somewhere else. I was in the possession of some other being other than myself, and we were soaring somewhere between the planets. I regained my eyesight and was surrounded by blackness that had the property of blue. I didn't know where we were, but I was positive that we were far from Earth. It's these next experiences that I know so completely, but can only scratch clumsily for the words to describe them. Oh, if only Pushkin or Shakespeare could have gone on this journey with me to explain it more profoundly. I simply waited in confidence. If this was to be the worst for me, it was what I deserved. And knowing this gave me solace. Suddenly, there was a pinpoint in the darkness. My surmise is that it was a star. I ventured a question to my traveling companion. Is it the star Sirius? The answer was not what I expected.
No, it's the light in the clouds that you saw on your way home.
Though I asked the question, I resented the response. I believed that I'd hoped that it wouldn't deign to answer my question because it was too important a divinity to trouble itself with such off-handed inquiries. The being who transported me existed. So there is life beyond the grave. The thought arose with the light-mindedness of a dream. Almost giving up hope, I recklessly spoke to the being again. Did you know that I fear you more than any other? And I know that you despise me for my fear. No response. Damn it! Why was there any response to me at all? Fear was growing in my heart when suddenly I saw the sun. It couldn't have been our sun, the one around which our earth sought refuge, but I knew with all my essence that it was the sun. A sweet feeling sounded in my soul. The native power of light. The same light that gave me life. It echoed in my heart and provided resurrection. I cried out to my companion, "If this is the sun, then where is the earth? This is most definitely our sun." The spirit pointed to a brilliant emerald light that shone in the distance. I couldn't speak, but questions came rushing from my soul. Are such replicas of the universe everywhere? Do the laws of nature apply to them all? Is that an exact likeness of our poor and wretched earth? Or are there differences? Do they suffer the pain of childbirth? Do the children they bear grow to resent them? Then the image of the poor young girl flashed before me.
You will see all.
We rapidly approached that earth. I began to see those shapes on the earth that were so familiar on the globes that I study. Then I raged with jealousy. How dare they create a replica of the earth? The earth that I love. The world that is mine. How ungrateful I was to extinguish my life. What right did I have to take what was given to me in love? How could I have stained its beauty with my blood? Because of the pain? On our beautiful earth, we learn to love through pain and feel pain in the love we experience. I want that earth. I don't want this one. Was I shouting at my companion? No matter. The spirit was gone. I was standing on this other earth. The sun shone brightly on this new paradise that I couldn't have imagined. It's at this point in my narrative especially that words fail me. It was a radiant festival of strength and compassion. It was a mighty, fulfilling, and holy triumph that was at once achieved. Then the gentle emerald sea splashed against the sands, kissing it with love. Love was plain, visible with a consciousness of its own. The trees were alive and communicated freely with me. I came to understand truly the purpose of the birds and why they landed in the trees and flew in the sky. The flowers greeted me with the fullness of love. There were butterflies that landed on me without fear. I was a part of them and they were a part of me. And finally, I got to see and know the people of this earth. They came and surrounded me. They kissed me in a way that was pure and fulfilling. There was no shame or regret. Ah, the children of the sun. The children of their son. They were a wonderful thing to behold. Beauty that calms one into a profound peace. I needed only to look upon their faces to understand all. This was an earth undefiled by the sin of Adam and Eve. They lived in the same Eden that our first parents lost, dooming all generations to follow. The inhabitants of this earth asked nothing of me. It was clear that they already knew all that was needed to be known and nothing more. It was only a dream, you'll say. So be it. The feeling of love that I experienced from these wonderfully innocent people was real. And it still pours into me this day. I love them in return. I suffered for them after what I did. Even if what I did was in ignorance, it was unforgivable.
Are you going to sit there, or are you going to tell us what you did?
What did you do that could have made them suffer?
To me, a Russian progressive, a vile intellectual, there was something that seemed insoluble, that they, while not knowing so much, knew nothing of science. Their insights came from a nourishment that is quite different from the aspirations that inform us. They possessed no thirst for knowledge. They didn't engage in the striving for excellence that is central to our pursuit of progress. But now, I know that their knowledge is loftier and runs much deeper than ours. Our science seeks to explain what life is. It's our goal to understand life.
What greater goal is there than that?
Don't you see? They didn't need to discover what life is. They already knew. It's as if somebody came to give them life through light. And they saw it.
So, what is life?
I asked them that, and they seemed confused. They pointed at the trees, and I don't have the words to describe to you how deeply there was love. They pointed to the animals, the sky, the sun. Will this make sense to you? They communed, these people and the nature that surrounded them. They were separate beings, but they understood that nothing separated them from each other. I couldn't fathom it, but they didn't feel the need to make me understand. They loved me in spite of my ignorance. I fell on my face and kissed the earth on which they so gloriously lived. I felt no shame for my foolish display of adoration. I continued to play the fool, knowing full well the force of love that would return to me. They wandered through beautiful gardens and groves. They labored little and lightly for the clothes on their backs and the food in their bellies. They made love and bore children, but there was never the least hint of the kind of brutal sensuality that overtakes almost everyone on our earth. They revered children as the new patrons of life. There was virtually no illness, though there was death. The elderly died peacefully, surrounded by many who wished them well, blessing them, smiling at them, and the dying smiled in return. One would believe that they communed with their dead. They seemed to be patiently waiting for an eternal moment when they would leave the confines of nature and consciousness and... I knew that I felt it all before. I had some knowledge of it on my own earth. It was like an anguished cry that left me in unspeakable sorrow. I told them that on my earth, my hatred of the people there always left me in misery, but that my love for them left me even more miserable. Those sweet souls listened to my plaintive cries with loving and forgiving eyes.
How is it you recall such details from a dream, mister? I forget most of what I dream.
Me too. Just vague pictures and a troubling aftertaste of unsettled feelings.
Are you sure that your imagination isn't filling in the parts that weren't there?
You may be right. But whatever this hodgepodge was, it altered me profoundly. I'll tell you something. Maybe it wasn't a dream at all.
What do you mean?
If it was a vision, then it would be the truth. But would such a beautiful vision end in a tragic truth? What I am about to share with you was so utterly true that it couldn't have happened in a dream. The dream sailed through 1,000 years and left me with just a sense of the whole. But I knew only enough of the truth to realize that I was the reason for their fall. I was like the flea that infects an entire village with the plague, like the snake that thought he was bringing promise but was forced to his belly for the harm he had done. I told them the great lie. From that act, they learned to lie themselves and learned to love the lie. It started innocently enough, just an atom, a molecule of a harmless lie that was meant to jest. But they quickly became aroused by lying. Simple coyness led to sensuality, which led to jealousy, which, of course, led to cruelty. Before long, there was bloodshed. First came personal rebukes, followed by shame. And when shame was felt by all, it was necessary to transform shame into virtue. With this, the notion of honor was instituted, and separate groups raised their personal banner of honor. From this began a struggle for isolation. They came to know suffering and loved suffering. They preached that the truth could only be attained through suffering. Wickedness entered them as they spoke of brotherhood and humanity. The lie made them criminal. And when they became criminal, they invented their own brand of justice and sought to create laws that codified their own criminality and sentenced the criminality of others to the guillotine. What they had lost became a faint memory. They laughed at what they lost and called it a naive dream, a fairy tale that could only be accepted by a child. No, we have science, they insisted. Through it alone, we will find the truth. Knowledge is loftier than feelings. Consciousness is greater than life. Science will give us wisdom. Wisdom will help us discover laws, and knowledge of the law will give us happiness beyond happiness. And with this litany, each of them loved themselves more than anyone else. Each became so jealous that they did what they could to humiliate all others so as to establish their dominance. Knowing that their society was sick, believing that they could fix the problem with the wisdom of their own ingenuity, they began to devise a means of government that would force everyone to unite. But they continued to love themselves and continued to simply hold high expectations for those they claimed to love. The warring sides claimed to be armed with science and wisdom. Claiming a charitable heart, both sides would use any means of deception with a clear conscience. They knew that their wisdom was infallible and righteous because of its infallibility. Their infallibility was their most powerful virtue. These once beautiful people sang suffering in their songs. I walked among them, loving them even more than before. I loved their now defiled earth even more than when it was a Garden of Eden. I stretched out my arms, cursing myself for the lie that I had told. I shouted out to them, "It was me! I alone was the cause of this grief. It was I who brought the infection. On my earth, I wanted to kill myself to satisfy my ego. Now, I wanted to kill myself as a sacrifice to these people that I loved, because I wanted to take their pain onto myself." It was still dark. The candle had gone out. I came to my senses in that armchair. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning. I sat stunned. I don't know how much time had passed, but the sun began to show through the window. There was my revolver on the top of the table. I pushed it to the floor and lifted my arms and cried out, "Oh, life! Life!" There was a reason that I found that young girl. I resolved myself to a life of preaching. But who am I to serve? I'm not blameless. When I woke from my dream, the truth whispered in my ear and said, "You knew it was a lie, and you told them anyway." Who am I to speak of the truth? But it was only a dream, wasn't it? We have made science our idol, but it's only a tool to help us understand reality. And reality isn't the truth. Reality exists only in our consciousness, from moment to moment. The truth is eternal. We insist on relying on logic and reason, but these two are only tools to be used with caution. There are no tools for the truth. The truth is within us, but it's in a battle with our consciousness. If only we could use our consciousness to set the truth free. Love is the answer. If only I had the words to explain it to you meaningfully. But I'm only a ridiculous preacher, ranting on a street corner.